Hey folks, someone asked me on YouTube here what I did about having my having the heat on my radio. So because it was on the dash, they said, how does it work? I mean, how are you getting rid of the heat because of all the sun? Anyway, just sit down here. First off, there was an issue about mounting it on the dash, which it's fine. A lot of drivers put it on the dash. It's just that you can see my mirror there, so that's access. So I could have moved this over a shade more, but anyway, it's stuck on with double-sided sticky tape. And I have it on the dash there because I don't put a lot of air in my seat, and it being way up there, which you can't see very well in these new Cascadias. When you're looking at that digital screen, I'm not sure if that's LED or LCD. When you look at the screen in some colors, like in red, for example, I can't see, I'm getting too much reflection off my, let's change the color here, like at night, for example. I mean, you can't, no, it's not working. But anyway, suffice it to say that at night, if you're not looking at it directly with the, directly at the screen, you can't really see it very well. It's all because it's an LED screen or LCD screen or whatever it is, it gets screwy and you can't see it. Not that you got to be looking at it every time, but still, you get the, when you want to look at it for whatever reason, maybe your SWR protect got set off or low voltage got set off, and you instinctively just go look and see anyway. Sometimes you can't see it, so you got to be sitting direct on it. And having it up here, I don't know, try how my dome light will help any, but having it up here, I was forever, changing channels for whatever reason, whoever I'm talking to and all that stuff. I just didn't want to be up there doing this all the time, changing channels, or if I'm searching for the upper lower sideband stuff, it was just a pain in the ass. So I put it on the dash. One of my thoughts were about heat, and I never really thought a lot about it up until I happened to put my hand on top of the radio one day when I was down south somewhere, and it was probably about 80 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and I had the windows open and stuff. I was just sitting around waiting for a reload, and I happened to put my hand on the dash, and it was quite hot. I mean, the sun was beaming in. Never thought nothing of it, really. But I happened to put my hand on top of the dash, or on top of the radio, and it was hot. So I didn't want it to melt any of my soldering points inside the radio, because God knows that can either just stop something from working correctly, or something could short out and I'll just have a pile of smoke. So I decided to put something on top, which is what you see here. Now this is nothing more than a rubber band, just to hold it on. That's all that is. That came out of a container of bungee cords that I got, so that's how I just hold it on. I just like you just saw there, just wrapped around those things, come around the other side, do the same thing. Now what I have for protection to get the reflection, instead of putting a fan back here somewhere so that it blows air, it's not really, it could make noise in your radio, it could be a royal pain in the ass just to wire up. It's more wires on the dash than you need, and blah blah blah. So all I did, this is how am I going to keep the heat off the radio? Not going to do a fan, so I'm going to use a reflective surface. Now, all this is just the tuck tape, T-U-C-K, tape. That's all that is, stuck onto a piece of cardboard, cut to fit the size of the radio. That's all it is. Now, somebody had mentioned Ridgeline, I think his name is, on the Truckers Report. Happened to mention that I should have this raised off the radio so that the heat from the radio can't escape. Now, I never even thought of that until he mentioned it. And I said, shit, that's a good idea. I'm going to have to do something about that. So now, you can see a space between my little gimmick and the radio. How I achieved that, you can see these I don't know what to call them, little foot pads, I guess I'll call them, that you put on the bottom of your furniture so it doesn't scrape up wood floor. That's all that is. I put them on this instead of the radio, and like you just saw, when it sits there, it just sits and allows air to come through, or air to move. Now when your AC is on and rolling around, now the air can potentially cool the radio, keeps the sun from getting on the radio, causing heat, potentially melting solder and such. And the cooler you can keep your electronics, up to a point of course, but the cooler you can keep your electronics, the better they work and the longer they're going to last. So that was my little personal trick that somebody was asking. So that's my short little video on that. And somebody else was asking how I had my microphone hooked up. This here is just flexible stuff. You know, it's kind of like wired. It's been rubber coated, and I just jammed it in the plastic here of the overhead for the radio. That radio is not plugged in. It's just there because it belongs to the truck and so on and so forth. So I never bothered to take it down. And how I've got my power supply that runs right to the battery with I think it's, I can't remember now if that's 8 gauge or 10 gauge. I keep wanting to look, but I never do. Anyway, that comes right out of the back of the radio. Anderson connector. I've got other videos on this. I had to take this piece off. This is the only bolt here that you'll need to worry about. The one, same thing in the bottom. You can just loosen it if you want. You don't have to take it off, but you can. But anyway, this piece comes off. You'll have to, this rubber grommet. This rubber grommet here, that just pulls off in order to get this piece off, which just pulls off my hand. And as I show in my other videos, right around here somewhere, once you take this piece off, you'll see a little hole that leads basically out to here and straight into the firewall. Once again, that's also in a video too. So anyway, that's a quick, oh, and on these Cascadias, braided straps, gotta have them. Otherwise they don't work very well. I've got 2 on the top and I got 1 on the bottom. And all the error is, once I've cleaned the bolts out on the cab side of the hinge and the door side of the hinge, you clean the bolts, you clean the threads, install those. Once you get those installed, it's going to be a little bit of work to it. It's not quick and simple, never is. Nothing fun ever is. But anyway, long story short. Oh, and the radio itself, it's on the factory bracket, and that's just double-sided sticky tape on the underside of it, going a full length of the bracket. And that ain't going nowhere. Some of the roads in Quebec and the roads I was just on in New Brunswick, shake the god darn fillings right out of your teeth, but that radio stayed in place. Anyway, that's just a quick little video of that little mod, and a quick rundown of my system. No sense of me breaking out my analyzer to show you, because I think I've already showed that in a couple of pictures different times. But I'm as close as I can get it to being perfect right at the moment. So SWR is down around under 1.2 on all channels. My resonance is best. Oh crap, where is it? I want to say right around 19. It could be upper or below that just a little bit. I can't remember exactly what the number is, but it's probably at its best on 19, 26, 180, or 27, 185. And my resistance in ohms, it runs from, I believe, 47 to 52, depending on where I am in the frequency range. But I don't know for sure, but I don't think you can have perfect resistance all the time. I could be wrong, but feel free to let me know if that is possible. And same thing with resonance. You can't be resonant on all channels. And no matter what your SWR says, don't be stuck on SWR. SWR is the communication from the radio to the antenna. It doesn't tell you what the antenna is getting out. It only goes from here to here. And even so, you're better off getting an analyzer. SWR it's nice to have it low and all that sort of stuff, because that means the radio is not working as hard to get that signal out, because you don't have to reflect. So the lower that SWR you can get, the better. But like I said, don't get hung up on it. The difference in a 1.5 and 1.2 doesn't mean squat, unless you're pumping out 10,000 watts or something silly like that, but most guys on the road aren't. So don't get hooked up on that. And if you're going to spend money on a radio and coax and antennas and studs, another thing too, get yourself a quality stud. None of this cheap little truck stop stuff. Same thing with the coax. I'm a fan of the Microwave Times LMR 240 for a big truck. But in any case, if you're going to spend all that money, I'm going to say, for the sake of argument, on a brand new Fire 955 properly tuned, you're going to pay in the area of $400. Coax, depending on where you get it and how well it's soldered and all that sort of stuff, anywhere from $20 to $70. A 102 whip, which is what I have here, they're right around $50. That piece of PVC, that's just there to keep the antenna from swaying. Anyway, suffice it to say, you're going to be into it somewhere between, I don't know, $800. So if you're into it for $800, go get yourself an analyzer. And you know what? When you get an analyzer, learn how to use it for starters. And seeing it's a high-tech piece of equipment for your antenna, get yourself a hard shell case. Come on, focus. Outdoor cases, Type 1000. This is perfect for my analyzer. That's my information. That's a cover for the screen. And that's my analyzer. Nicely safe in the box. So, going over some of the bumpy roads of the US and Canada. Stay safe. So anyway, invest in something like that, because it's going to make, once you learn how to use it, it's going to make that work better in combination with that antenna out there. And it's going to make that radio last longer. Anyway, any suggestions, any tips, anything? If there's anything I can do to help anybody, because I've had people help me, shoot me a message. I'll see what I can do. I'm not a tech. I'm not an antenna man. I prefer the antenna side over the radio side, but I'm nobody. I'm just learning on my own like everybody else. But still, if I can help you with your Cascadia or anything else, give me a shout.